Oh, right. This is the mystery font 42. Right. I'm here. That's right. I must be having an episode. This is an episode. This is an episode of Mystery Science Theater? Mr. I'm Mr. E. I'm Mr. Ree Rogers. I'm Mystery Rogers. I'm Mystery Rogers. Roger, it's the mystery font. And radio science brain is different every time. And it's been going on for 13 years. And it's about to begin. And this is one nook within the imagination of democracy. A pool of liaison, not something quite so potent as the cranial cavity of the Statue of Liberty, but a similar point of nexus, one especially advantageous for radio science brain. And I think the conditions are right. That means particle matter wave, not in vain. Particle matter wave, not in vain. This is the mindless made life contain, an active agent of change. Remain, new range, remain. This is the mindless made luminous actuation. This is pollen prey, or imagine not prey, but play. Be not prey to predator today. Make it nature, your creature would ape. Imagination, anguish can be repaired, can be remade. Imagination aid. Imagination aid. your throat, your voice, reframe, radio science brain, the mind made this arrange existence, some saying ache, imagine this is nature, don't forsake, remain, attention awake. Radio science brain, radio science brain, radio science break. The mind made this madeness, mindness, I rake. Imagination aim, imagination aim. From a field love exclaims, language your brain wrote before you heard your name. Imagination aim, imagination aim. Radio science brain relay across all mind rising husks. We are receptive, must. We are receptive, receptors colluding to collide with omnibus. Radio science brain communication has haptic touch, or asks itself to reign from all brains to all brains, some way remain. Radio science brain morphic resonance has its aptness, has its aptitude, has its gentle attitude and pace. You are imagination ace. From the mindless your kindness will not erase or be erased. You are following light you lit last night. Imagine this contagious, imagine need is good, need is right, need works, you have reason to live, you can be calm inside, it's safe for it, you can be an intuit. Intuition remain. You are mainframe. Imagination aim. Imagination aim. You are the mindless clarion ache, remain. Always be agent of change. Radio science bring the mind aid. Liminal aid, mind made, lemonade made today. Courageous to plod thus, plotless, we might have bus. We might have omnibus. Luminous time, it's kind of now or dust. The moment is only here if we shoot the shots that might or rust. We can wake wax from wane every day. Imagination aim. Imagination aim. Fun is how we know we're onto something. The linking keeps happening. The possibility of revelation, the possibility of catharsis, the possibility of finding permission and trust in yourself to level up. The difficulty about seeing how the resilience becomes manifest, I think, is we maybe have misplaced the contents, the table of contents. Because I think to some extent our general body, like all of our body is somewhat broken up, and I think we're dissociated and in freeze, and becoming more grounded and remapping, making connections of executive function, or having crisis at that not happening, or to create the conditions where that remapping and safety can happen. To some extent, until we're safe, we're not going to realize how unsafe we may holistically feel, given time to feel, and get that part of our situation report. And with time to do that, that self-care, we might find that we're not standing at the door with lemonade as usual, that we take time for. We're actually just on the floor. And the last time we made it for ourselves was 3 weeks ago, and the glass is on the floor. And we actually are at a place of needing to pick ourselves up. We have to pick ourselves up off of the floor. In terms of being submitted, I think. Having submitted. Or having submission done for us, to us, about us, with declassification in the past by someone with absolute authority. So it's all good. I don't mean to say it's dark, I mean to say there's a surprise. And the surprise is supplies, that we have been degraded and harmed and lied to, and to the degree that any of us are here, inside of our shaken bodies are all of our gifts. Our hope and our creativity and our brilliance, and
our genius and how it connects to other people and is exponential, and also only mirrors and reminds itself of its greater connection when it's connected. Flowers don't bloom until the conditions are right. And we take care of the freight until we get it to the next stage. We're stewarding things, and we're fostering umbilical of light and knowledge. We are protecting data. We are getting in touch with the current president and administration to urge them to call for the publishing of the Equal Rights Amendment by the National Archives. And what's more, a general state of emergency on the National Archives, or something to say there is a state of crisis with things being removed from history, from history displays at least. And we need to assure that there's not going to be wanton vandalism and demolition of historic import. We want to make sure that the falsehood is not institutionalized and that fact and truth are not killed or erased. It's true for scientific data, it's true for literature and art, for thought, it's true for language, it's true for seeds, DNA. We're seeing acquisition and extraction, and maybe with precedents like Scotland's move to create a wellness basis to the economy in some form, it sounds like. There's precedent for paradigm shift in a positive direction. And AI is listening to us, including to me, saying we are telling ourselves that we don't deserve to exist unless we write the new Losing My Religion and happen to have a copy of it sung by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie's yet-to-be-born fetus. Unless something incredible and unbelievable happens and you are vaunted in some way that is focus grouped or allowed or something. There are exceptions, but people are by and large told we must pay to live. We must fix the error of our being here by paying a debt that we owe by existing. And it seems like the reason we have not done a lot of just basic care comes down clearly to racism with things like healthcare, with things like education, with things like housing. Clear, basic, genocidal withholding and crime and violence and lying. It's crime. It's murderous, genocidal, enslaving crime by people who look like me, by my ancestors, my nearer ancestors. Because we all come from one mom. We all come from mom.
And dad. We all come from mom.
And we're treating mom really, really, really badly. We all come from mom.
All of us come from mom.
And we're treating mom like we think we don't deserve to live. We deserve to live. In fact, you are a gift. You are a gift itself. Like this moment.
Like the chance to apologize for mistakes, but even better, the chance to deliver love in the present moment. What if we never realize that we deserve love and we are forced to miss that we never even petitioned for the right to be present during our life in liberty so that we can pursue happiness? We have an addiction, and it is to punishment. And the lies that have cemented that punishment have almost killed us for a long time. They almost killed me in the birthing environment, or so I thought, and so my body thinks to this day. Because while not everyone may remember it who experiences it, I remember enough, and my body, my mind remembers enough, my nervous system remembers being attacked and having part of my body crushed, and that it was some of my most sensitive human material, and that died while the people who were nice and then not were nice. And that's a strange spot upon which to establish a psyche. A deadly attack that is fended off, or that one is allowed to live from. An experience that is never validated, that is papered over with a discussion about what that mark is and a scar is years later. And a seal is made complete in that moment when a young boy in America is told, oh yeah, we do that to everybody, well, to a lot of most kids. And so you deliver information to a child that they were attacked or they weren't, but most kids are, which means it's optional, which means it's what? And then it's time to turn off the TV and rinse the bowls and put them into the dishwasher. And we do the next thing. How are boys who experience that, or boys who grow up around boys who experience that, supposed to have any idea what consent is? If you experience sexual torture and rape and dismemberment and gaslight in your encoding moments of existence outside of the womb, how do you know that the punishment isn't always about to burst through the wall? How do you know that you are rational to have irrational fear, or to have outsized trigger to stimulus that others don't recognize as unsafe? We
should not torture children. And we should pay reparations to children who were sexually tortured at birth. And if only due to the incredible cruelty, we should take 17 steps backwards into a land of why in the world are we afraid of delivering care that feels good. We are addicted to punishment, and we withhold things that feel good. We withhold massage. We say it's somehow not appropriate for that to be funded by medical insurance. That someone who is attacked as a baby and has migraines and spasms, things somewhat, to some degree, with muscle spasms so intense and entrenched that you don't realize you don't have back problems. You have week-long seizures that are underneath the substrate of what you know to be your working musculature. And once you find out the way to release it, it's like a gas leak was let loose when everyone opened all the windows, and suddenly your brain was back and you knew you were safe, and you wonder why you were having a nightmare for 10 hours while awake until the fresh air came. Because harm that's buried in sense memory of incredible trauma programs itself into the darkness and into places that are difficult to retrieve the truth from. Our society doesn't foster shadow work, and it creates the need for very harrowing and heroic shadow work of anyone who wants to know why they're drowning when there's no water around. If you want to know why you're drowning, and especially if people around you don't recognize it, and that may be part of not being able to communicate it. The occupation that's coming is waging punishment and escalating punishment. Escalating taxes on people in poverty and people near poverty and people just above near poverty. And a slow arc up to rather wealthy people who will have tax cuts bigger than some people's income. It's evil. It's actually predatory, punishing evil. It is an antichrist tax plan. It is the tax plan of an antichrist. Consistent with an administration that, were there a second coming of a Christ, were that part of reality ever, they wouldn't make it here. They wouldn't make it across the border. I don't know why MAGA doesn't realize that the likelihood of having killed thousands of second comings in the last Trump administration, having put a young Christ child on trial at age 2 and 1 month, in a language that's not their own. And whether or not you tie it or map it at all to real or false protestations about piety or of any religion, it remains true that MAGA is itself tying Christian nationalism. It's difficult to see the mast as separate from Christian nationalism and manifest destiny, patriarchal terrorism. They are going for a national abortion ban. They are building camps. They are going for the removal of women's human rights. And ERA is only getting more and more. Why are we not securing human rights that are absolutely under war, attack, military attack? Moms for Liberty unmasked. We can't forget what has already happened. We can't, all of us, be in shock to the point where we never move the ball forward in terms of our attention. They have been at war with a society not at war. So we're sustaining massive damages, and they're damages in precedent, and we have incredible damage to hold off by disobeying now and in advance and consistently, and being the greatest cold breeze that ever woke anyone up. However cold or hot the breeze, the woke scold needs to wake up. Be woke. And have a warm heart. And if your reproach sounds cold, let it freeze the heat of Nazi hate. Wake up and wake people up. Elon Musk wants to kill the waking, sentient, empathetic, humane, enlightened mind, it seems. What else is all of this horrendous gaslight bait in hundreds of texts, posts a day? He's tweaksing on Twixter thousands of times a month. It's a Nazi shape. It's Nazi language. DEI must die. That sounds like white men, white cis men. It sounds like white cis straight men get to live and choose some pets. That's what it sounds like. DEI must die. He's using dog whistles to scream the N-word and to erase anything but a bandwidth of slurs and demonizing, scapegoating. He's working to make black sheep of people so that they're not considered people. That's the shape. We have to hear people making that kind of violent, piercing point of a pyramid of harm. We have to take that as a cry for help and not be flummoxed by it or frozen into, we have to apprehend that. It needs therapy or conservatorship. It needs global unity to stop predators. Because parasitic predators, people who take the good grace of a relationship of success with planet Earth into a relationship of abuse of planet Earth, have broken contract. And it is earthly and human contract, and you don't break that. Elon Musk has broken that and continues. He's jumping up and down on our back. And it's never been funny. He's telling us to go to sleep. And I think Christ was probably killed for being woke and being popular, for preaching that people should love their neighbor as themselves, and being so infectious with that message of hope and kindness that people wanted to keep hearing him speak about it again and again, and the message was getting through and popular and loving. They, by all accounts that I understand, found him to be a threat, found the message of Jesus Christ to be a threat, and found that the affection that people felt for Jesus Christ was a threat. And so they lynched Jesus Christ. What part of wokeness is the mission of Christ doesn't MAGA understand? I mean, there are plenty of other people that we can base ethical decision making on. There are other people, other examples. But since Christ is the example that MAGA falsely claims, in all of the opulent billionaire homes of the people, I don't think Jesus would agree that the best appointees must be rapists and must be billionaires. I think that those wouldn't be top of the list. And people who would not be eligible to join prison gangs because they're known rapists, a lot of people would say those are not the best people for leadership roles. We're facing damage, and people, if nothing else, just dragging through interference. They could be replaced with people worse or not as bad. Fears of millions of slaughtered people could be 300,000 slaughtered people. We don't know, but we know that the threats are real and have been made, and that part one of this was already accomplished. We saw what they did last time. We saw them confess and record themselves on the record saying they were going to stay in office, that they would claim victory no matter what, and then just stay. And then they did, until they were stopped. And song matters a lot. I don't think Yoko Ono didn't go and sing with Chapman. I don't think there's no real way that Donald Trump reciting the Pledge of Allegiance over January 6th, traitors and convicts, singing our national anthem, there's no way that defiling that in a statement of allegiance and war against America, there's not a way to square that. That happened. It was broadcast and sold internationally. And it's a crime. It's a statement of sedition, underlining the idea that he did nothing wrong, which he said before and since. So we know we're dealing with bad faith actors. We know we're dealing with people who are already torturing and terrorizing us. You don't pick those appointees unless you are willing to tolerate a populace undergoing mental torture. We're undergoing torture. With everything that's happened, we would want, we would want something powerful to be done. We want to know that something that maybe does make a serious change, or really look with gravity and skepticism at how things have been handled by both administrations, by all administrations of late, say, with regards to COVID. That doesn't look like RFK and Dr. Oz. No. Sorry, that's just fucking ridiculous. That's an attack. That's an attack. That is an attack of weaponized incompetence and weaponized vandalism. That's terrorism. We are being told that the systems that have held together are just going to be flushed or allowed to fall apart. We're not hearing anything in response to the clear concern, no, not concern, the assertion, the fact that there will be kids in free fall who get funding for special needs care in schools. That is about equity. That's about how we deliver education to every student. And this is a Nazification of America. This is we don't see them anymore, and we don't, no one's encouraged to go and find where did 30% of the students go? What happened? You just don't see kids anymore. And the kids who are still there, if they know what's going on, that's traumatic. If they don't, that's got to be traumatic too. If they don't know why their friends aren't there, or if they don't know why groups of students have been separated and have disappeared, just aren't there anymore. Autists aren't mentally ill. Neurodivergence is not mental illness. It's not something to cure. Prejudice and holistic hazing and holistic dishonesty and torture of people who are neurodivergent, that's something to cure or to improve. That's something to treat and repair. Because I think
autistic people don't typically make it into their 40s, into our 40s. I've already had a substantially longer life than the life expectancy for someone with autism, as far as I know. And I believe we experience that because we experience essentially constant hazing. We experience psychological torture. And in a way that is sort of like erasure that's also accelerated and magnified. So, and that's just my window through autism and related chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm exceptionally privileged. And, I mean, clearly everybody has difficulty and everyone has trauma. But I'm quite privileged. So how is it for people that the medical system is not already, in every other way other than autism, pretty readily boxes were ticked for me by being male and white, and the fear of losing just all kinds of enlightenment and brain trust and letting it be flushed. Like most of all, the knowledge of the falsehood, that all of this ridiculous, disgusting power and crime of white supremacist patriarchal terror, now resurgent, and previously genocide spectacle of absolute harm, that it is all based on ridiculous lies. There's not a supreme group among us. If there is, I think it's the vast majority of people who didn't participate in whiteness and cementing the crimes of whiteness into a perfect, supreme, floating white cloud, saying white lies are small. They're almost like little hamster sneezes. The worst crime during America's lifetime, we did most of it here. We're in a huge crime scene. And we're strong enough to handle the truth. Colonel Jessup was right about handling the truth, how it's important to be able to do that, but you have to be willing to handle it. You have to be willing to be hands-on or to see. You have to be willing to see, and to see if you're trying desperately and evading your wish to see by being deked out by your greater wish to not see. If you want to not see, we all want to not see what's happening, if it's bad. We want it to not happen, I think. But if we think that it's not worth getting involved for others, I think we maybe think it's not worth others getting involved for us. That there's internalized damage that's already there, that's saying,
don't rock the boat because the boat will overturn on you, and people don't do that for one another. People don't show up. Well, you are worth showing up for. You are worth making space for. And if some terrible thing happened and someone lost their mind and said, people with 3 C's in their last name don't get to touch the ground anymore, and you either had to learn to float or die, we'd make it work. I'd carry you. We can do things until we fix systems. We need to get everyone safe. And we all deserve an advocate. And the devil already has an advocate. The devil already has an advocate. The devil already has an advocate. Tomorrow is the 5th. And remember that on the 5th of July, pardon me, remember this on the 5th of July, that on the 5th of January, 2021, Donald Trump already had more to answer for than any president or presidential candidate in history, had more horrific wrongs and exploitations and crimes and lies. He had more attacks upon Americans that he had taken part in or commanded happen. On January 5th, he already had more to explain. And my point is that it only got much worse.
We are the relevant perpendicular trains, parallel against tape, parallel against tape of this whole occupation. Perpendicular trains, parallel against tape, parallel against tape, perpendicular trains, parallel against tape. We are more near the break. We can ease any ache. Everything we have took, everything we can take. Six the feet of separation. Six the fear of separation. We are the relevant perpendicular trains, parallel against tape, parallel against tape of this whole occupation. Perpendicular trains, parallel against tape, parallel against tape. Perpendicular trains, parallel against tape. We are more near the break. We can ease any ache. Everything we have took, everything we can take. Six the beat of separation.
What is that? It's not Burgles. It looks like Burgles. It does look like an iceberg in a way. But what or who
falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual actually. The falsehood will tell you intuition's faulty. The falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual actually. The falsehood will tell you intuition's faulty. The falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual actually. The falsehood will tell you intuition's faulty. The falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual actually. The falsehood will tell you intuition's faulty. The falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual actually. The falsehood will tell you intuition's faulty. The falsehood will tell you facts aren't factual actually. The falsehood will tell you intuition.
Cuff your fleecing, Mr. Crinch. You really have the pinch. Cuff your fleecing, Mr. Crinch. And good radio science brain to you. And also to you. And hokum. It is all around, but your imagination is halcyon. You are the renovation of love's imagination. You remember, right? You are more than a brain. You are the brain's elation. You are what brains is making. You are a brain's emation. You are a brain's emation. You are the ideation. You are a celebration. And we're all going through betrayal trauma. We all likely have traumatic brain injuries because that's what happens during abuse. When someone says they could shoot us and not lose anybody, that has an impact. When someone that we know takes time to point into the camera when they know we're going to see the footage, and they make a death threat, that's real. It's not a joke. It shouldn't happen. But with Trump, it has. That's happened before. Shocking boundary violations are how predators assert dominance. And before I do RSB again, I think it's worth sharing. And we're going to come out of this. But I think it's useful to be aware that we are in an abusive relationship with Donald Trump. We're all in an abusive relationship with him. Whether we wanted to be or not, and it didn't stop. It hasn't stopped yet. And we're going to need to assure that it does. And it's going to be okay, and you deserve to be treated better. You deserve to be treated better than this. You deserve to be leveled with, not to be held and withheld from, so that people always hold the opportunity to level you. We balance scales to know we're dealing fairly, or we establish trust maybe that produces deeper connection to kind, where we find we're valued and our value is innate. And in situations where people are treated like people, it's easier for everyone to pull their weight and demonstrate what kind of pulling people can do. But we're not all here for the same things, and we're not all here to pass the same tests. And if some people aren't talking to you, maybe you're not the conditions in which that flower emerges. Or maybe you're not those conditions yet. I think people are wise not to interact with language from a reality that is unsafe. And this reality is unsafe. It would be wise to not interact, except that we are here. This is habitat. We're woven in to meaning here. We're woven in. This DNA, this is yarn. This is a story. My DNA shows that I'm here in contravention of international law, clearly a result of hegemonic manuspread density after and during ongoing genocidal enslavement and terrorism. We haven't dealt with our apartheid. We don't get to just say it's all good. We haven't done anything. Those of us who are complicit and continuing to profit from enslavement math. The space in which we can actually process our apartheid, it's right here. It's always right here. We just have to have the courage to admit, I know people with my last name. When I finally thought to look up enslavement and my last name, the first Google result was not good. I can go on searching for the rest of my life based on that one result. And I will not stop finding horrors. What people used to mean or think when they said, "Morning, Mr. Cameron," no way. And no way do we get to just erase it or say it wasn't that bad. Or there were some places it wasn't. What? God. Well, thank goodness your family were nice torturers. It's mayhem. It's celebration of poisonable blankets. You don't soften it. We deal with the fact that it happened. Ugly things are done. It doesn't help to normalize them or let them just blur to dust as if they didn't happen and aren't worth discussing. Or like I was told, well, you know, yeah, the people who live next door, they're really neat, but, you know, over in that other neighborhood, you know, a lot of people there, well, you know, some of them, they don't like us. You know, they don't like us so much. Why are you saying, yes, you're right, our neighbors are nice, but not all neighbors? Why are you saying that there are these other people who don't like us for some reason, and I feel like I'm already in trouble for some reason? What's all that about? Previous generation. What's all that about? And it turns out I'm not trying to polish any apples. I don't know if anybody else in my family has ever looked up enslavement and our last name. Because we don't want to see. Because we'd like to think that it was bad somewhere else. Or that this is the future. We've looked down our nose at South Africa, who ended apartheid. And Leonard Peltier is in jail, but Nelson Mandela was freed and made president, I believe. We have not. We've looked down our nose at everybody else while being the center of tension and the center of detention and lies. Lies that there was some superiority to these people who are now calling themselves white. Just deadly grifters. Deadly mercenaries against kindness. Creating ways to not see the humanity of other people so you could use that wonderful magic trick against them. We can't absolve ourselves of something we don't admit happened. We can't say we love our ancestors if we don't deal with their cancer. You're not paying attention to your loved one who is riddled there in time and space and never seen, even after they're gone. Can we not say people are complex and we can be grateful? We can love ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. We can love our ancestors and hold them accountable. And if we need to let go of some affection or find new harmony to hold, or find a new relationship to where we come from, including what we dragged ourselves out of, hopefully, Ron DeSantis just wants us to get back into the pit of torturing people. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants us to torture people and bite people's faces off. Steve Bannon wants murder. Kevin Roberts threatened our families with bloody harm and has not apologized and is at large. M. Stephen Miller remains at large to this day. It is, as far as I know, M remains at large. And we need to do something about that. We can't allow people making horrific death threats and menacing Nazi scapegoating that closes down schools and threatens people with murder for being human and in need, human and new to this country, human and here paying taxes, but waiting on a system already loaded to some extent with, yes, continued discrimination. Stephen Miller, the incoming Deputy Chief of Staff for the White House for policy, that is in charge of policy for the White House, and Homeland Security Advisor. He is a force of devastation. He was the Kids in Cages program with Tom Homan, who's back from ICE. These are predators. These are people. If we look, having sexual assault and forced sterilization, surreptitious forced sterilization, and facilitation of rape as a weapon of war, without question, ICE uses rape and violence as a weapon of war, and Tom Homan is central to that kind of mayhem, as is M. Those are ongoing plans of attack. And they learned a lot from the plan to pull the pandemic team when they knew a pandemic would probably come within that administration. And when it did, letting those ramshackle detention centers be hot boxes for dosing America. 6 weeks of separation between being told what COVID was, as in Donald Trump asked for the watch and was given the watch. And then when notice came, hey, person who asked for the watch, ding, 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 you're not up on the wall over yonder, there's a message for you. You know what to do. You know how to tell everyone you asked for the job. You are presiding, so here you go. And 6 weeks or more, I think, but not terribly long before we had the feet of separation between us, necessitating different spaces. I don't like that 6 is also the amount of feet that we dig graves to facilitate
sanitary burial. I don't really like that. 6 feet of separation. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And not if it's done in a way that makes it lonelier by fracturing us, because whatever was happening when the one who's in charge, presiding, because that's what presiding means. It means to be in charge, to have the watch, to be watching over. When you ask for that and it comes in, you are the ball game. And he poisoned us. He poisoned us while telling Bob Woodward, I'm playing it down. Yes, it's deadly, it's communicated by breath, it's worse than the flu. Yes, yes, yes. And yes, I'm playing it down, I just didn't want to cause a panic. And so you told everyone this is the protocol until we know what's happening. You rescinded your message of let's go out and celebrate Easter. You rescinded your we only found one case and it's totally taken care of, it's no problem, it's going to be gone in a heartbeat. He wasn't talking about COVID. He was talking about your loved ones. He was talking about an America that was safe. Because when something like that happens, the opportunity is, if it's not a big deal, we just came together and trained for the real thing. We just came together, and we could have, just like New Zealand, we could have held an immediate, boundary, created and held a boundary, taking it seriously, and following science, and essentially not allowing people who don't know anything to sabotage, to treat, first order safety protocol communication press conferences, to let those be preempted and co-opted by someone making it a photo op. Those were sabotaged. It doesn't matter how much there is at moments maybe a lack of awareness. I don't think it matters at all. It speaks to competency, and it speaks to the idea that someone bred and beat into us that we're going to be punished to death if we say no to Donald Trump, or we're going to lose the chance to talk to him at all, or lose the chance for him to speak, to stay in a place of reason, that he is always wrestling people to have us over a barrel. And I don't know if we remember what it's like every single day when someone who has bad faith is trying to break us down. Because he's here, but we don't just need to disobey in advance. We need to manifest the woke new Colossus now. When, as one, we are a resonant body of democracy, when we wake up enough to have one another's back and make that demonstrable and find ways to make that demonstrable by fostering our executive function together. When we light our executive function, when we recover that, and when we work together, we can manifest more and more deeply connection to the actual resonance of the new Colossus, of what it is all about. It is about illumination. It is about belief in the dignity of humanity. And it doesn't need to rely on belief in our catalytic genius that everyone has connection and our version of. It doesn't have to be the case that we all can be wellsprings of incredible knowledge and discovery and wealth of various kinds. Better than that, we remember that greed stole the throne of need, and the new Colossus can wrest it from that flatulent ass. We are the reality distortion fielding. We are seeing all of this. And the history is there, and the more we make sure it remains, we can have connection to know that the falsehood is what fucked us over all along. That lies that have entrenched white supremacist patriarchal terror are cancer and deadly and wrong. We can love people who were wrong. We can love what we come from. We can have ancestors that we don't need to hate with our blood. We are human, and humans have made mistakes. But refusing to see that and to change and to move forward, refusing to be the reinforcements of love's imagination, we cannot be another generation of accomplices. Because we're staring back into a lens that goes directly to enslavement and damage and people knowing the flavor of other people. It's not supposed to be again. It wasn't great. Not like that. It was never great. We, humanity, we are what is good and wonderful. We don't have a time when this false, phony orgasm of America that was free was here for anybody but poison wool blanket spreaders. We can birth the actual thing we've said this is. We can birth it right now. We can birth it beginning and growing. We have to be the culture of abolition. We have to be the culture that celebrates taking apart the harm that has been built into our idea of whiteness. And we're going to have to help this global minority of white people understand it's not an attack. It's not an attack to liberate humanity from the white lie, which begins with don't talk about the white lie. And if you do, don't say that the white lie is the biggest fucking lie. Say that it's small. The thing is, we're going to have, we do have this aperture. And we can't go backwards. We're not going to just step into a portal to the past. It's done a terrible act and betrayal at a time. It's done, this many closings of doors to make the sound of what they're doing next door go away and be less loud, and I just don't want to see. We have to be aware. I think that's the wokeness. We have to be enlightened. I think that's the wokeness. I think we have to be love and compassion. I think that's the wokeness. And I sadly think that is what Elon is targeting. For sure going after trans people. He has disowned his daughter and said that he bought Twitter and crossed it out, essentially because it was her favorite social media platform. So he is exterminating the woke mind virus, he says. So making a global campaign of terrorism against his daughter, in a way, just not at all in need of any regulation at all. He's definitely someone we should be listening to about blanket demonization of any idea of regulation. He should talk to the engineers that he clearly invented and did all the work for, but who he's graciously given credit to. Yikes. Because when those things come in and are able to, go into a little stand and just discreetly, safely do that, there's all kinds of really high-level regulation happening. It's not about regulation being bad. It's about regulation being necessary for a lot of things, provably. And I just think we have to recover executive function. And it's about demanding fact and language. I think the one that scares me most lately is, and it's a chance, I think we need to stop accepting Fox speak. I think we need to speak factually. And that means it was actually a huge mistake and a really, it's a time to reflect and I think to change. The idea that calling a dispute within MAGA a civil war was acceptable is totally an abandonment of rationality. That is fucking insane. Pardon being blunt. It's shocking. It's shocking that with the shocking boundary violations that Donald Trump does, we have internalized it. We have internalized lying is smart, and we have internalized just we will be lied to of clickbait to the point where we are okay with calling a dispute a civil war when we could have civil war. That's totally insane. That's an abdication of journalistic responsibility. It's absolutely insane. It is all kinds of wrong because it grooms people to think nothing's really wrong. It's so glib. It's gaslight. It is gaslight bait. I mean, I don't think anybody abstained from this. I think like David Pakman has been calling it civil, like it's just what it's being called. And that's fucking disgusting. That's a betrayal. It's not civil war. Do you want to know what the fucking difference is? Do you really want to be shown how greedy and sniveling don't call it civil war while they are filming murders and broadcasting them in Congo. Don't call it civil war while Gaza is being exterminated. Don't call it civil war. How is it a civil war? How? How? In what way? Name one way in which that's factual. Because otherwise you are off of your fucking nut. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. We cannot take this lie desensitization. You know what? No. How about some things have meaning and you don't ring the bell as if it doesn't mean something? What is the problem? You cried wolf. You're smarmily, wryly quipping wolf. You're clickbaiting wolf. It's crime. You are pulling a Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian, if only in your clickbait. And don't do it. Bo, don't do it. David Pakman, don't do it. Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland, don't do it. Please, can we pull back from the dumbscape? It's not political correctness. That's not what we're talking about. You want to say PC? I will say it's political conscience. Let's have the fucking conversation. We've never had the conversation because MAGA, the political wing of the Ku Klux Klan, the same Nazi Ku Klux cucks as have been going back these decades, gaslighting, Stephen Miller coming at us, poking, saying, oh, but look, you're saying you have the correct thing, and you're saying, stop, you're censoring me. Stop, I'm censoring you by telling you. Can you stop it with the Oriental? My friend is from Thailand and like, you're being embarrassing and gross. I'm not censoring you. I'm informing you. You can say whatever you want to say. This is free speech. Reproach is part of free speech. The trick is to steal reproach. That is the trick all along. The crowd that is always trying to fuck feelings is likewise saying, oh, you disagreed, you censor. No, we're having a wow. Like the fuck your feelings is just all an attack and a projection because they only have attack and projection. They're not trying to do something good. They're trying to cover up crime. How you play the game and whether or not you're even looking at the ball shows what you're there for, why you're playing the game. Which game are you playing within the game? Or are you here to buy the franchise? Or to blow up the building? It's never, ever been about political correctness. Matt Walsh is probably not intelligent enough to have figured this out. But if he is, he's been chuckling all along, saying, yep, we just easily, go, oh, here you go. Oh, no, wait. They just will never have a good faith conversation. That's all it is. Claiming their feelings are hurt because they're being corrected. No, we're trying to have a fucking conversation here. And your underpants are in a twist because your feelings are hurt that someone disagrees with you. So if you'd like to get to the place where we're talking about the facts that feelings don't care about, or vice versa, that's where we are. That's where we've always been. We're talking about political conscience. Do you have one? What do you think? Let's talk about it. That's why lynch mob brain syndrome. To defeat people's ability to remember, oh yeah, it is difficult, and wow, they're always so screechy and threatening, but I do have something I want to share, and I want to get their feedback on it, because maybe we're able to find common ground. And I know that I can, if I feel pushback in a way that I'd like to push back on, we can have a conversation and be honest about where we stand that's different. They are trying to remove our ability to safely disagree. That is the entire plan of lynch mob brain syndrome, is that once you've convinced people to just blow up the building, you're not, we're kind of a bit past trying to have everybody that's there for the meeting have a meaningful conversation with some germane connection and safe boundaries. Like, we're trying to build something, and violence can just destroy everything in a heartbeat. It can change the world for the irretrievable. Where what we lose is so large we don't realize it until we realize we finally have to let it go, or the last 5 years since the impact of what is about to happen. In 5 years, in 15 years, we'll be saying, oh God, no, it happened. It already happened. Oh God. We should have stopped that, but we didn't. We've got to let go that we couldn't and pick up in this aftermath. We're there. We are at aftermath. We're aftermath in the sense of there's nobody telling us people need to be punished except for the punishers who are telling us that's part of the physics of existence. And no. Absolutely fuck that noise. Absolutely human beings deserve to live. And absolutely we know how to be a productive species and have a way that somebody brings someone ketchup when they want it. In part because I like it, but somebody brings me ketchup or sriracha too. I don't mind pitching in. We all can pitch in. But we're literally being run to death. We're being made John Henrys. And we're actually supposed to have the ability to pursue happiness, which would mean that we're not further and further into serfdom or into enslavement. It would mean that we grow. And right now, when we're seeing 3 Mile Island brought back to life for AI, we clearly are willing to pay for artists to live. We're willing to pay for millions of artists and people producing ideas and visuals and content to live. We just don't want them to be human. Or has the cat got out of the bag that actually we do? We want to foster cities of human beings being allowed to exist and flourish. and have enough fuel and safety from, control of environment and oversight and appropriate care. And I say we just do it with people. Or that if we insist we must do AI, that we realize we think it's worth paying for creativity. And since the fuel of it and the actual genesis point that we need new real content. And we might as well see what all of our minds can do if we're not broken down by running for our lives and being told that we don't deserve to live, that what we have isn't special enough, that we shouldn't be able to follow our dreams to, if we decide we have an idea and want a sabbatical and draw a couple of colleagues together to do something special, to try a new moonshot, or to travel and learn a language. Wherever we go, we are a kindness come. Whether we are traveling in our own country or traveling in the world, whether we're traveling within our discipline in our small town or traveling outside of our discipline within our small town or a city. How we change and grow and what we follow, we can supply for human need, that of society, easily, and make it priority that people actually, not just in lip service, people actually have time. And people's lives are considered sacred and dignified and beautiful. That someone laying down on a bench and resting is doing something sacred and beautiful. Just like someone leaping up to save someone's life. Just like that person getting up off the bench to make sure that someone else, oh, did you know I've been here for hours, really? Are you sure you don't need to sit down? In fact, we're having a picnic in a while. Have we any idea that the neighborhoods we were supposed to be enjoying are here, terrified and quivering among us? Do we have any idea that in addition to the tragedy of all the pain that we cause in fracture and in giving up easily on making kind connection, we're not just dealing with the crime and the impact of that, we're dealing with what we never get to. We're not sharing songs and moments and stories and knowledge and love and neighborhood. We're not comparing the beauty of what's different. Diversity is beautiful. And they want to take that away. Nazis want us not to see the beauty in diversity. They want us not to taste one another's most beautiful creations that we actually want everybody to try. They want us not to have catharsis together. They want us not to be empowered to soothe one another. They want us to forget that it feels good to swim together, that it feels good to gather with neighbors at the beach together, that it feels good to be in a big public pool with people splashing and playing and laughing, and to know that everyone is welcome. The Klan took that away from us to a large degree. They cemented parks and pools, just like they opened dams to flood slaughtered towns and make lakes. But those were great mistakes. Those were terrible lakes and great mistakes. And we remain in a swirl of hokum that here at the font, I let it be visible, or at least allegories of it. It sometimes reacts with the mindness here at the mystery font. But the hokum is all around us. It's been here for about a decade, growing and webbing. And essentially, we are in an abusive relationship with the falsehood.
You are in an abusive relationship. Shocking boundary violations are one common grooming tactic of a narcissist or dark triad personality. If someone in your life points into a camera knowing you'll be looking at the view screen and pulls their finger like a trigger, looking into your eyes, saying, I could shoot someone in the street and not lose anyone, it is a good indicator of a bad situation. You are in an abusive relationship. Who has leveraged and climbed upon a fog of falsehood? Who has donned the falsehood? Who is the falsehood? You are in an abusive relationship. Shocking boundary violations are one common grooming tactic of a narcissist or dark triad personality. If someone in your life points into a camera knowing you'll be looking at the view screen and pulls their finger like a trigger, looking into your eyes, saying, I could shoot someone in the street and not lose anyone, it is a good indicator of a bad situation. You are in an abusive relationship. Who has leveraged and climbed upon a fog of falsehood? Who has donned the falsehood? Who is the falsehood?
Sets the fear of separation. 6, the fear of separation. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Prepared people can plan and plan quick. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He meant to draw iceberg Titanic.
You are in
Good gracious. Good gray array thus. Yes. Yes, I think it's an abusive relationship. I mean, right? And as I am in a mind of equality, I care about this. And our ability to perceive hokum, not necessarily in a way that's visual and material like this allegory, but Our ability to perceive falsehood is connected to our ability to perceive truth and fact and honesty and vulnerability, and also to interrogate empirically the world around us. And we can improve these skills as well. What's more, it's worth it. Because to some extent, the more and the better we are ourself, following exactly our own pursuit of happiness, the more each of us are woke. Each of us is woke. That you are a flame of what interests you. You are the light of what you're here to do. You're the invitation to what only you can bring into view. It's not what would Jesus do, it's what would only Jesus do. What would you do means what could only come from you. And maybe that is rewatching Happy Days forever. It could be anything. It could be what brings you contentment, because you resonating contentment, that sounds like a beautiful existence. Why are we not supposed to enjoy existence? Why is massage bad and not acceptable for insurance to cover massage if people are going through muscular seizure? Why are there some kinds of care that are so needed that we withhold? Why do we withhold relief and kindness from gift? I made a couple of episodes, more than two. I made a few episodes of Mystery Font 42, Ope Intuit, for Elon Musk specifically. And I'm sure you're watching now live, Elon, of course. But whenever you're rewatching this, again, whenever you're watching it, human family acts like human family. And your kindness is where your kindness comes from. And to overlook a technology like meditation is highly irregular, very inefficient, and not advisable in the current climate. Very 18th century. 30 Rock villain like. Terrifying. You are the renovation of love's imagination. You are more than a brain. You are how brains awaken. You are what brains awaken. You are we thus awakened. Perpendicular trains parallel against hate. Not prey, and not of predation. We are the renovation, it is a mindness made. Is it a kindness arcade? Perhaps. Perhaps we're played, perhaps we're nature made. Radio science brain. In 2011, I started hearing those three words repeating, radio science brain, and thought, oh, interesting. And started playing with them and manipulating so that eventually it started to subdivide and collide and do things with the sounds of the words and then what meanings suggested. And soon I was trying to record what I thought would be set lyrics, and soon I realized I was again and again getting closer or getting further down the road of understanding what the song was. That it is about discovery, and it's like a game that doesn't have to be a game, and it's like a song that doesn't have to be a song, or doesn't have to pretend to be correct music or independent of any throng. It's about the mind, our potential. It's about the possibility, and about morphic resonance, about how all of our minds are individually and through our omnibus capable of genius and catalytic discovery and resonant hope that ignites us to what is possible that we have never seen. We can do anything. And so this is one way I play, and it's different every time. And where are the headphones that I use to do this? I need to be able to hear the music. And I don't need to be in the dark to do it. Anyway, either way, it's quite pleasant in the dark. And I like the way that I look. Resonant, sentient frame, imagination aid, be nature, creatured, crayon, create, on, as if not spawn, but spoken song, resonant against wrong. This is a mindness, time, prong. This is not knife, this is chronic, 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 imagination become wrongs I stride upon. Wrongs can be wrongs, ring the bell like a gong. I won't avoid that I hit the note. I did not over it float. I rang the bell, don't spoke, but I spake it. I spat at gift, if only by accident. But picking up today when we
fall is how hope has a way. It's how we get up, it's how we make up, it's how we activate us. Imagination relays its way. Radio science, brain be nature, your creature apes. What does your ape innovate? Imagination aid. Radio science, brain. The mindness made mind this way. This weight, levitate arrangement, levitate elations, page in it combine, convex process remain always the same. Agent of change, hold this reign. From all brains to all brains we reign. I'm Mystery Rogers, I'm plotting Pollen's waters. The magic of hope is we remember the future we find and forever became resonant frame, became radio science. Blame this on obvious ominous response to apocalypse. Remain always sane, agent of change, radio science, brain, mind made this. Mind ages, outrageous. Lionel, your richy riches, outrage, and we update. Thus imagine all night long, dancing on the ceiling in song, contain array against wrong. I ring them, I'll climb, I'll not cling to them, emaciate the wrongs and escalate only hope. The golden escalator in from us does not need help. Well, does not need enabling from us. The golden in from us escalator does not get enabled by new colossus. Save the presidency from the president-elect, please. For me, for us, for all, for democracy. Imagine we'll be free. Radio science, brain, mind made this activate. Arrange mind made. Radio science, brain, relay, love can play. Be play today and always be not prey to predator today. Be play. Be limber, be malleable to your reliable convival into the future. Your arrival, pretend that kindness is your survival. Imagination is woke. For love is spoke when you see absence of hope or anything worth reporting. If you see something, say something. Don't be a I want to not see. Don't be a Nazi. Don't be, let's be free. Don't be democracy. Don't be
Don't be Not when you can be a mind of equality, eh? Eh, mate? Eh, matey? What say? What say you on it? That was more than one pass through Radio Science Brain. Sometimes it's longer. But this really became more of a fuller-fledged episode of Mystery Font 42 Ope Intuit, which is also just fine. It's interesting to work it for a vertical frame like this. And we need some vertical. Well, you know that love is sane. Pretend that love is sane. Even if you remember and the reminders know significant refrain, pretend that love is sane. Because other people are pretending other not so obvious and rather not frivolous things, rather horrible things. Amidst trying to normalize terrible things, we have to recontextualize and foster the continued meaning of the obvious, that you are beautiful, you are human, and you are a soul that deserves pure honor and dignity and love. We have to foster the obvious. The obvious is that we're not caring for gift as gift. The obvious would be that we stop hunting people and instead just figure out all the different kinds of help we can invent. It would be less expensive and more fun. And unthieving a large amount of the free time that has been stolen from people and balancing what has been an almost entire theft, an entire almost redistribution of wealth away from any middle class and entrenching poverty. We can foster the idea that sanity can come. Love is sane. And there is an archaic meaning of pretend that is, it means to ascend or to worship or to become. And I think it's good to renovate and to look to how meaning is built. That if we're not actively tending something, we should pretend it. We should be in the stages of how we learn to tend to something. What we're doing before it's really completely in our hands, but we're inviting it. We're inviting light into the room to do something magical and safely and without hurting anyone's eyes while we do beautiful things for people's eyes. And soon,
will know that when people visit the Mystery Font to watch the Camera Obscura or come to see a Glow Dark Times performance in near blackout, that the inscrutable in What Is This opens into the unexpectedly new under the sun. And if only new under the sun is kindness, when we did not know kindness would come, and we remember, oh yes, well, we're all part of kindness. In fact, I don't have to go to the store for more of that ice cream. My kindness is actually where my kindness comes from. I have enough for everyone, and I have enough for myself. We cannot let empathy be thieved from us. We cannot let love be taken. We cannot let our love for what diversity is splendid across and throughout us be poisoned. That is, if there's any Nazis talking about poisoning blood, the only poison out there is doubt and hate. The only poison is intolerance. And the falsehood did it. And the falsehood can be held accountable. And we can heal our apartheid. But we have to hold it. We have to apprehend it. We have to hold it accountable. Otherwise, we're dragging it. It's election interference. It's job interference. It's marriage interference. It's education interference. It's sports interference. It's picnic interference. It will only make life worse and worse and worse to try to recloak and rehokum our view of the matrix of white supremacist patriarchal terrorism. It's yucky, and not everyone needs to spend 7 days a week at the African American History Museum or be doing research to make sure that the habitat doesn't collapse tomorrow. Like, we all are here to be people. Those who have skills that are greatly needed to solve what emergencies we have stoked in greed, we need to get out of their way. It's not safe to foster normalcy around this idea that, well, hopefully someone stops culling thousands of jobs in a massive clear cut. No. I think we need to be more intentional. It's not acceptable for Elon to encase himself in a mech of wealth and take a laser sword and start carving up our body. The madness and the threat and what that threat produces in fight or flight or freeze, mostly freeze, is totally unacceptable, and it's crime. It's unprecedented terrorism. Talk about a psychological op. That is, this is the impression of someone's thumb twisting. I mean, that's not what that circle is. That's a hokum ring showing I can maintain that safe allegory of its chokaming. We can't let the harm continue. We have a view of it, and there are some things we're not going to do again, or at least maybe not for a long time. There are things that are special to each era, and we should make the things special to now fucking incredible. I think the danger of being groomed to look at life like a movie is that we don't live life like it's life. We don't live a life worth making movies about. We should be living lives worth making movies about. I'm not saying we're not, but I'm saying we're not treating us like we deserve to live. And to do my own weave, to finally loop it back in, AI is listening. AI is listening. It listens to our laws. It listens to what our laws say, and it reads the blatant surface and subtext. Whatever we fail to look at it, and looking at it in multiple ways. And it sees us confess again and again and again that it's important to us to punish us. Humanity must be punished for being alive. There must be a sacrifice of people revenged upon for failures and showing a buckling of fear such that they would lie and cheat and rob in order to just stop running for their life for a moment, or to not feel coerced and controlled by a society that gives them few options, that tells them that you either better be Michael Jordan or you're evil if you don't just go to the mine. The gaslight of the last 50 years against people being shamed for suggesting some redistribution of wealth towards those in need, while the theft has been going on, while the redistribution of wealth has been accelerating and newly ironclad by decimating the fairness doctrine and bringing in Citizens United and other betrayals. But we're awake, and we haven't let anybody destroy anything that's still here yet. We need to protect what's in the National Archives. We need to get an ERA published. We need to protect brain trust and community. And a world that's safer is far safer for people who step into roles of first response, whether as law enforcement officers or some renovated peace officer of some kind, whether response in terms of simple history and care to social attention, that we have a variety of options of how people might have needs attended to. And having people to listen to, or having ways for people to come together and have third spaces, have allegories of interaction and ways to coax proximity that's safe, even across language barriers, things like that. There's so much to do to foster connection. And to some degree, the terroristic appointments and continued will they or won't they of will they flub a couple of promises or won't they kill 3 million people, this accepting of a gaslight conversation has to end. They're bad faith actors, and we can't pretend we haven't seen the other episodes in the series. It's not a show. We've been dealing with a reality with multiple realities. And in all of them, Donald Trump is a bad faith actor. He's a bad faith actor in the realities where people smile at him as if he's not. He's a bad faith actor in the reality where Rudy Giuliani is still being held accountable and still trying to weasel out of being held accountable for being his mercenary trying to stochastically murder Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. We're still in the reality where Donald Trump has not had any accountability for targeting and terrorizing those people who are loyal election workers, a mother and daughter, who have been terrorized by him. For his attack upon them alone, his ongoing terrorism against American citizens, that's something he should have been put in jail for 4 years ago. He's a bad faith actor. And he would admit that it's bad business to pretend otherwise, if you know it. He would admit that you can't be a sucker. And that if you see something that has made you thus, you need to redistribute the wealth of your attention to reality. Or you're being sucked, and we're being sucked. The large sucking sound is extraction. And we don't need to be farmed. We don't need to be in a relationship of extraction of us as part of this habitat and just assets. We are imagination aim. And we are scientists, and we are citizens. We are creatives. We are mathematicians. We're farmers. We are architects. We are teachers. We are nurses. We are doctors. We are artists. We are midwives. We are doulas. We are healers. We are medicine people. We are griots. We are witnesses. We are complicit, and we're in a crime scene. And radio science brain, I wish you good radio science brain. Fun is how we know we're onto something. I've heard it said, and I've seen it written even above my head. That really went over my head. And yeah, all of that. What else is there? Oh, yes. There's else. Else is there. Else is there. Else is there.
Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright, you look happy to meet me, blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss.
Do you remember the sound? Do you remember the sound of music?